grind, DMV. Happy Saturday. We are waking up to a mixture of sun and clouds out there. We're also tracking warm and muggy conditions with storms back in the forecast. So keep it here. We'll talk about that in just a bit.
This morning on DC News Now, Memorial Day weekend is underway. The latest travel as a record number of people hit the roads for the holiday. And a new bill passed in the House of Representatives could ban non-citizens from casting ballots in DC elections. How lawmakers say this could impact the future of local races. Plus, potential budget cuts to the Montgomery County Public School Division. The shock and outrage from teachers ahead of possible layoffs.
You're watching the station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Haley Mylon. This is DC News Now. We're going to get to those top stories in just a few minutes. But first, we've got to check outside because Brittany, oh my goodness, the Georgetown waterfront, the Kennedy Center looking absolutely beautiful early this Saturday morning, just 8 o'clock. How are we doing out there?
You know, Haley, it's beautiful outside. Think back to the last 2 weekends. It was icky with all that soggy conditions, but we are waking up to dry conditions across the DMV. Not a bad start to the holiday weekend. Yes, we are waking up to a mixture of sun and clouds across much of the area, but back off to the west, keeping an eye out on this cold front that is making its way into the Ohio Valley. That'll be moving through the DMV as we head through your day today. Could be sparking up a few isolated showers and storms, but the good news is it's not going to be a complete washout. So any plans, still go out there and still do them. Temperature wise, not looking too bad. We're sitting in the upper 60s to mid 70s across the board. 75 currently in the nation's capital, as well as Lexington Park. You head further off to the west, we're seeing those temperatures in the lower to upper 60s, but those dew point temperatures, they are on the rise, still holding on to the 60s across much of the area. So stepping out the door, feeling a bit muggy out there, and overall high temperatures and muggy conditions will be in the forecast through the weekend. And we're also tracking some isolated showers and storms. So keep it here. We'll break down this full forecast coming up.
Sounds good, Brittany. Thank you. According to AAA, nearly 38.5 million people are expected to hit the roads this weekend across the country, and that's up 4% from last year. We talked to some travelers in Virginia who hit the roads early for their weekend getaways. They tell us it wasn't too bad since they got a head start.
We left like about 11:30. You know, if we had left a little later, it'd been bumper to bumper. You know, especially coming through Northern Virginia.
We haven't hit any real traffic like they were talking about. It used to be a little dicey on I-66 with the construction, but now that that's done, it's pretty straightforward. And we've kind of got a routine.
Within Virginia, AAA predicts travel will surpass pre-pandemic levels. The agency expects 1.2 million travelers in the Commonwealth this weekend, most of them traveling by car. And with all of that traffic on the roads, they urge drivers to be extra cautious.
Just making sure that if you see any red, blue, or amber lights, any of those first responders, construction workers, just making sure that we're slowing down and moving over if we're able to.
If you plan to leave today, travel insight company Inrix says the best time to hit the road is after 6 p.m., before 1 p.m. on Sunday, and after 7 p.m. on Monday. Well, Memorial Day is a time to reflect and remember our nation's fallen heroes. Our Randy Bass was on the National Mall yesterday. She got an up-close look at the colorful and emotional tribute on display throughout the weekend.
600,000 red poppies line the National Mall here this weekend, each flower representing a United States service member who made the ultimate sacrifice defending our country's freedom.
Those beautiful red blossoms nestled next to history along the National Mall.
Because the monuments are still works of architecture, and this is a sort of living memorial.
The Poppy Wall of Honor put on display by the USAA.
On one side, we have the history of the war since World War I. Talks about the lives lost in combat since World War I. The representation on this side of the wall is more than 600,000 poppies, which each poppy is representative of a life lost in combat since World War I.
Walking along the wall, evoking emotion for some who came to pay their respects.
I think it's stunning, and I think it's a really good way of memorializing those who have died in battle. So many lives lost, sometimes really gruesome ways, and it really causes the heart. Pause.
Pausing for a moment to reflect on the true meaning of Memorial Day.
It's a day of reflection, a day of honor, a day of remembrance. It's not a day to sit and celebrate. It's not a day to, I always tell my family, have your picnics, enjoy your time, do your barbecues, but find that moment to just pay that respect to those that had given the ultimate sacrifice.
The Poppy Wall display will be up through the weekend near the Korean War Veterans Memorial. It reopens this morning at 9 and stays open until 9 p.m. and then it'll be open again Sunday from 9 until 6. In the evenings, those poppies will be lit up with red lights. And the Arlington National Cemetery is also holding events. It's opening at 8 a.m. throughout this holiday weekend. Tomorrow, the cemetery is hosting its 3rd annual Flowers of Remembrance, allowing visitors to lay flowers on the tomb of the unknown soldier. And Monday, the cemetery will host its 156th National Memorial Day observance at 11 a.m. in the Memorial Amphitheater. Also happening over the holiday, a lot of stuff across the DMV. A concert on the west lawn of the U.S. Capitol at 8 in the evening on Memorial Day. And the city of Rockville is hosting a Memorial Day parade at 10:30 a.m. And the Korean War Veterans Memorial Foundation is holding a wreath laying event around 4 p.m. Non-citizens from voting in local D.C. elections. That's what a bill passed by the House aims to do. And this is a Republican lawmakers' bill passed with bipartisan support. 52 Democrats joined Republicans, passing the bill with a total vote of 262 to 143. The bill comes after D.C. Council passed a measure in 2022 that expanded the definition of qualified elector for local elections to include eligible non-citizen residents. House Republicans argue that D.C. law waters down the votes of D.C. residents. Our Tosin Fakile has the details.
The bill is passed.
Republicans saying Congress has a responsibility to protect D.C. as the House advanced a bill that would ban non-citizens from voting in D.C. elections.
People that can vote for Vladimir Putin would also get to vote for the mayor of D.C. Unbelievable.
It is cheapening and lessening citizenship.
Congressman Jamie Raskin said it's about engaging people in their community.
You want people at the local level to be involved in their kids' schools, and you want people to be engaged in local government.
Eleanor Holmes Norton says Republicans are playing politics with her city.
If House Republicans cared about elections or D.C. residents, they would bring to the floor the D.C. statehood bill.
This is the second time this year that Congress has passed legislation impacting D.C. laws, and this move by the House comes a little over a week before the D.C. primary on June 4th. And right now, 16 cities and towns in the U.S. allow non-citizens to vote in their local elections. Besides D.C., some of those cities are in Maryland, like Tacoma Park and Hyattsville. Well, new this morning, an outdoor gas leak causing several buildings in Northeast D.C. to evacuate. Police and fire crews responded around 7 last night to near the intersection of T Street and Vermont Avenue after receiving reports of an outdoor gas leak. They found an underground gas line had accidentally been struck by workers. 7 buildings in the surrounding area were evacuated out of precaution, but no injuries were reported. Montgomery County educators are upset after finding out that more than 300 positions will be cut. The Montgomery County Council is taking $33 million out of the budget for students and teachers, according to the Montgomery Education Association. Earlier this week, members of the group held a protest outside of the school board meeting, and they interrupted the meeting, handing a letter to board members demanding that cuts be made in other areas.
Those 300 positions end up having ripple effects throughout the system. The fewer adults there are in a building, the more there are safety concerns, the less individual attention kids get.
The school board did not talk about the budget or layoffs at this week's meeting, but the next meeting is Tuesday, June 11th. A new survey shows homelessness in D.C., Northern Virginia, and Montgomery County continues to rise. The report by the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments shows that the homeless rate increased by over 1,000 people, a 12% increase from last year. It says 250 more Montgomery County residents are experiencing homelessness than they did in 2023.
Causes of the increase in homelessness are obviously the lack of affordable housing in Montgomery County, but across the nation. We're also noticing an increase in landlord discrimination.
That's Christine Hong. She's the Chief of Services to End and Prevent Homelessness. She stresses her department is working on increasing resources for homeless people in Montgomery County. That includes providing beds to local shelters and rolling out mental health services. All right, Brittany, how about a look outside? How are things?
You know, things aren't looking too bad, Haley, as we head through your day today. We are waking up to a mixture of sun and clouds with warm temperatures and shaping out to be not a bad start to the holiday weekend. Now, the overall setup, much of today will be dry, but as we head through the evening, we start to see this cold front move through. That's going to spark up a few isolated showers and a few storms across the area, but it's not going to be a complete washout. We see the same exact setup though as we head into your Sunday. It's Monday, Memorial Day. That's when we start to see more widespread showers and storms across the area. So keep it here. We'll have a full check of that forecast coming up.